Good morning, everyone. Usually, I don't like talking about myself. Usually, I say I'm not the news because I'm not the news most of the time. But today, kind of am the news. So yeah, it's interesting to see. I'm a locked post on our Canada on Reddit. I'm a top post on Meta Canada, and lots of conversation and interesting stuff. Lots of removed posts on the locked thread in our Canada. I don't have links to any of this, but it's on Reddit if you want to have a look. And I sent a press release the other day, and we're going to go through that, and we're going to look at the social media posts that inspired what's happened. And, well, here's the press release. So this was released on the 13th, yesterday. Here we go. It says, Bernier, July 19th, Guelph event update. Hello, everyone. Please see the press release that was sent out today. It reads as follows. Bernier and Guelph changes to event. Guelph PPC Association. The People's Party of Canada, Guelph Electoral District Association, organized a live interview between local candidate Mark Peralvis and party leader Maxime Bernier. The purpose of the interview is to discuss the People's Party of Canada platform and to take audience questions. The event is scheduled for 7 p.m. on Friday, July 19th, 2019, at the Guelph Youth Music Centre. We have recently learned that through social media channels that an anti-fascist rally is being organized by a local group in conjunction with the group from Hamilton to protest at the event. The language and imagery used in the social media post is concerning for the safety of the members of our community who are planning to attend this event and for the GYMC. Due to these safety concerns and the potential for property damage, the GYMC has understandably canceled our event booking. We're receiving a full refund and would like to extend our appreciation to the staff at the GYMC for their time and effort thus far. In light of recent violent protests in Hamilton and Toronto involving these same Antifa groups, we are taking the organization of the Guelph protest very seriously. We do not want to see this violence in Guelph. I want to underline this. I do not want to see this violence in Guelph. Ticket holders will be updated on the status of the event via email. Further information to come. Okay, and I've emailed all ticket holders at this point in time, and we were about half sold out. So we were about 50% there, just so you're aware. Here's the imagery that was used. I'm not going to read this out. The link is in the description. If you want to read one news article that was generated from what I sent them, which is the press release I just read out, that's the imagery. And here's Mr. Bernier weighing in on this situation too. He says, quote, communist thugs managed to get PPC event in Guelph canceled after threatening violence. Violence from the far left. With all the journalists so preoccupied with manifestations of hate, will all the journalists so preoccupied with manifestations of hate cover this? Will CBC publish a long piece on the rising threat of the far left? I don't know. I honestly, 50-50 at this point in time. Flip the coin. The local media I've talked to have been really good, really responsive and interesting. They've been asking me questions and are responding the way I would expect media to respond to something like this. And I want to highlight that. The local media have been really great. But I mean, as far as CBC or anybody else, I don't know. But I think that if the roles were reversed, I think that if they could pin this on a right-wing group somehow and not Antifa, which is clear. I mean, clearly here, this is Antifa, and there's a link, I think, to the Facebook page in this article, but I could be wrong. But this is clearly Antifa. This is not a right-wing group by any stretch. And I wonder if there's going to be a response, because this is not mentioned in the terrorist reports that I've seen. They mentioned right-wing extremism, but they haven't mentioned this, as far as I know. Maybe I should take another perusal. It's been a little while since I've read it, so maybe they do talk about Antifa. But my concern is Facebook posts from these people are allowed to remain up. The communications from these people are allowed to remain up, while people talking about things that, in my opinion, are much less harmful and much less inciting violence, etc., are removed from Facebook specifically, right? And I think this is actually even still up on Facebook, which is just incredible. Just incredible. If you're wondering what the bias is, here it is. It's plain to see. So it's interesting to watch. This is the world we live in right now. They are purposely doing this to shape a narrative. The news is not there to inform you. It is there to reinforce the narrative that it's pushing. So be aware of that. Be aware of that. Read a lot of different varying news sources. Okay, on to a Maxime Bernier Twitter roundup, because it's been a long time since I've done one. So here we go. Maxime Bernier Twitter roundup. Maxime Bernier says, quote, "Gosh, the first question that should greet any appeal for a national something strategy, how is this crap the business of the federal government at all? It's not, unless you want a bigger, more centralized government in Ottawa, like NDP, Liberals, Conservative, and the Greens. And we're going to read this piece because it's interesting. And National Post is reporting, while these national strategies in our supposed federation. Hey guys, Jagmeet Singh has found the signature policy that is going to blast the New Democrats into power. You won't believe this, but it's a national strategy for something. That something is cycling, which, as we all know, is the single most heroic and socially improving habit a human can adopt, with the possible exception of donating blood to injured cyclists. On Thursday, Singh visited a bike shop in Ottawa to talk about his national cycling strategy, mess with some cool bikes, and let a squadron of cyclists of all shapes and in all configurations. The inevitable recumbent bike guy was present. On brief 21st Street analog of Soviet May Day tank parades, all participants allegedly survived. This was, I've got to say this. This was funny to read. So good job, sir. Like, if you, Mr. Kosh, you were going for humor and you succeeded. I laughed a couple of times, so it's good. Very well done. I'm going to continue reading now. Bikes are an important feature of the NDP leader's Singh's image, and the idea of a national cycling strategy is not new to the party. Indeed, before Singh velocipeded stylishly his way into the House of Commons, a member of his caucus had already introduced a private member's bill for a national cycling strategy. I know what some of you are thinking. You are thinking, we need a national cycling strategy? Why? Biking is almost inherently a local activity. Why does literally every damn thing have to be the subject of a national strategy? Isn't this weakness for national strategies an incredibly moronic and trite feature of Canadian politics? Aren't there good things, any of them, that we don't need national strategies for? Why don't these jerks shut up, or at least find a different way of saying the same thing? I mean, you were all thinking that, right? Weren't you? Scroll down just a little bit. This picture's awful. I hope this never happens to me. It's probably going to happen to me, but this picture's awful. Just terrible. I don't want to be the guy awkwardly dancing on stage. Politicians. Okay, back to the article. The Liberal government announced a national dementia strategy last month to widespread applause. It joins our cornucopia of state alongside our national housing strategy and our national shipbuilding strategy. Someone or other was also heard whining for a national volunteer strategy, although I'll bet we have one of those written down and gathering fungus someplace. This newspaper, at around the same time, had a different story noting Canada's shameful absence of a national genome strategy to buy DNA workups for children suffering rare inherited illnesses. As is typical, the strategy would mostly just be paying for something we don't now. There's really no strategy involved at all. As I stewed over Mr. Singh's plea for a bike nation, this part of Canada's national strategy mind virus began to annoy me just as much as the disregard for the Constitution that many of these appeals involve. Of what, for example, would the NDP's vote-winning national cycling strategy annually consist? If you look at their failed bill, C-312, the lack of a bona fide strategic element becomes clear pretty quickly. The bill envisions the federal government paying for safe and efficient cycling infrastructure, presumably with municipalities doing the actual building and planning if they choose to. It urges promotion of cycling and proposes keeping cycling consciously in the mind when making laws concerning industry, trade, and transport. Maybe, it adds, we can gather data on how much people bike and who does it and where. There is no actual Manhattan bike project, no program with specific stages to supersede the demon motor car. The strategy from a federal standpoint is mostly money and talk. And what else could it be? In a decentralized federal state, or indeed any country of at least medium size, Canada is both federal and enormous. The idea of a national cycling strategy might have some practical meaning in a desirability like Belgium or San Marino. In Canada, it is bound to be a 9/10 aspiration. I worry, looking at the federal government's ineptitude in handling its carbon tax litigation against the provinces, that such a notion has become literally unthinkable. A federal justice department full of educated lawyers demonstrated very serious trouble in coming up with a strong answer to the constitutional question, what makes carbon emissions national as a concern? And this is not just a procedural issue. It is, in fact, the first question that should greet any appeal for national something strategy. How is this crap the business of a federal government at all? Yeah, I agree. Largely. I mean, wow. Yep. Here's Mr. Bernier, and moving on from that story, I'm just going to leave it there. I think that was funny and kind of got it. How is this the federal government's business at all? Time to refocus and simplify. We don't need to keep everything in mind when creating laws, because we're humans, and the reality is, when you're creating a law, you have to look at the relevant things. You can't be like, how does cycling relate to this? You know, all the time. It doesn't work. It's the same thing that they're trying to shoe in with the environmental stuff. How does this impact the environment? Well, it all impacts the environment, right? Increasing the population increases the need for housing, increases the need for building, increases the need for infrastructure, and that impacts the environment. How can you be pro-immigration and also green? They're at odds. Anyway, regardless, back to this. Maxime Bernier says, if you agree with the People's Party platform on pipelines, help us promote it by sending it to a friend, donating, or subscribing to our newsletter. Now, I'll do an in-depth look at the pipeline strategy on my local channel. That's at Mark Peralvis. If you just Google Mark Peralvis YouTube, you'll come to my local channel, and it's linked to my various web addresses, etc. So you can find me that way. But I'll do one. I haven't done one yet, and my goodness, I'm busy and camping this week. So it'll be fun to see how this balances. The next tweet goes, really impressed with the professionalism of coverage in regional media. They report event and what I said. Their goal is to inform. Unlike the ideologically slanted stuff from too many left-wing activists masquerading as journalists in national media. And I've found the same. Like I said at the top, the local media has been really good. Although I haven't heard from Global News, and I think they're covering Guelph. Like I think they've got a Guelph attachment. So maybe I should reach out to them. Hey, Global News, if you're watching, reach out to me. I'll add you to my press release list. Okay. Anyway. Maxime Bernier is tweeting, quote, Ryan, thanks for recognizing that the People's Party vision is superior and that I am more qualified than Scheer to lead the country. Everywhere I go, this is what most of those who plan to vote CPC tell me. If you all vote for me, we will get rid of Trudeau. Time to switch. And this is in response to this tweet. Ryan says, you have a great vision for Canada and are easily the most qualified leader for this country. Unfortunately, my number one priority is this election is to stop Trudeau from further destroying our country. So I have to vote Conservative. I'll tell you, in 2015, what I saw in 2015 was an electorate split. People were looking for something other than Harper because the anybody but Harper thing really stuck. And everybody kind of agreed, and it was unspoken. It was really interesting. As soon as Quebec turned for Trudeau, it was really obvious in the polls, and that hit everywhere because Quebec turned their back on the NDP and Mulcair. If Mulcair, it was the hijab ban. Mulcair agreed with Harper, and Trudeau said, no, that's despicable. You can't do that. And Quebec turned its back on Mulcair and didn't vote for him, voted for Trudeau. And that turned Ontario. Really, that was the moment that everybody agreed that Trudeau was going to be the one, and it wasn't going to be Mulcair. And I don't know how that happened exactly, but the polls, it was obvious. It was like flicking a light switch, and it didn't move after that. It was very steady, and that was that. It was really strange to see Trudeau leapfrog like that in 2015. I remember watching it, and I remember they were hammering Harper with a whole bunch of stuff, but it's interesting to see that they're trying the same tactic here. Now they're trying to do we have to stop Trudeau, we have to get rid of him, and the only way to get rid of him is Conservative. And I mean, the reality is Conservative is the same as Liberal, is the same as Green, is the same as NDP. Like, they are the same party. If NDP or Green get in, they prop up the Liberals. That's it. And if Scheer gets in, he just starts implementing the same policies as the Liberals, but light. He won't commit on a number for the immigration. He has said that the infrastructure bank, he'll complete the current commitments for the infrastructure bank, but he won't. And he said that he would abolish it. He's going to take 5 years, which is more than a single term of government, to clear the deficit. I mean, this is stuff that most conservatives expect from a conservative government, and it looks like Scheer's much closer to Trudeau than to any conservative standpoints at all. There's a couple of things that he says, pulling the GST off home heating, but I mean, why not go further? Like, really? Why home heating? It's a boutique credit, right? If you're a renter and you don't pay your heating, you don't get that credit. I mean, it's just so it. And then when are they going to stuff it into a carbon tax to make the carbon tax quote unquote revenue neutral, right? Any credits you can get, toss them in there. That's it. Revenue neutral. Sorry. gone off on a big tangent there. I apologize. Refocused back to the Maxime Bernier Twitter roundup. I like memes, and this is retweeted by Mr. Bernier. It says, what other political leader would say this? At Maxime Bernier at peoplesparty.ca. And it's a meme with a church. It says, provinces should not be receiving equal, or it's not a church, it's the House of Commons, sorry. It's Ottawa. Provinces should not be receiving equalization payments for decades, just like individuals should not be receiving welfare checks all their lives. And yeah, I mean, like I said, I like memes, but sharing them is good. It gets information quickly out there, and people take a quick look and think it's a church instead of, what it is. Maxime Bernier says, quote, yes, we know you have room in your party for people who oppose all pipelines, who want to tax and regulate everything, who want deficits until the end of time, who want to let the whole world move here, who want to impose Sharia, who want Canada to become a UN province. And this is CBC News. This is in response to a CBC News tweet saying Justin Trudeau defended recruiting a known anti-pipeline campaigner to run for the Liberal Party in Quebec, saying that there's room for ideological diversity in the party's ranks. Oh, right. Yes. Ideological diversity. Like, let's shut down our revenue stream in Alberta. Nope. That's not ideological. It's been made ideological, but it's not ideological. Maxime Bernier says, quote, a new tweet says, quote, watch my interview with Val Olson at Home Media Mom and Medicine Hat yesterday. We discussed doing politics on the basis of values and convictions rather than polls and pandering. I think it's working. I really do. I'm on the ground and I'm talking to people regularly. They've heard of the party. They like what Mr. Bernier is doing, and they're glad that they have a candidate in Guelph. Really, I'm shocked and blown away by how many people know us and how many people who don't know us are enthusiastic and happy to talk to us. It's nice. It's nice. Maxime Bernier's next tweet goes, yes, which pro-UN Paris Accord on climate... Yes, which pro-UN's Paris Accord on climate change politician who wants to spend your money in other countries because we need a, quote, global solution for a global problem actually said this? And here's the image. It says Canada has an obligation not just to reduce our own emissions, but also to help other countries cut theirs. Who said that? Who said that? Do you think it's Justin Trudeau or do you think it's Andrew Scheer? Well, it's Andrew Scheer. Andrew Scheer. Scheer's climate plan will look at how Canada can cut emissions elsewhere. Yes, by spending money on billboards in Ghana about pooping on the beach. Climate change. Here's Bill Tufts, and he says, check out your local PPC candidate. Drop by and say hello. And this is our candidates. And here's an image of our candidates. And there's been people saying that the PPC is a white supremacist party or a racist party or an anti-gay or anti-trans or anti-LGBT, that was the word, LGBTQ party. Look at the picture of these people. These people are a rainbow of colors, a rainbow of different ages, walks of life, and I'm sure they have different opinions on certain things, but all of them are uniting around the People's Party banner of freedom, fairness, personal responsibility, and respect, right? And that counts for something, I think. And the smears of racist and ists, all the ists and phobias and all that stuff are just that, smears. They're not true. They're not true, fundamentally, not true. And looking at this, I don't see how anybody can come to the conclusion of racist party. I really don't, or sexist party, or anti-anything party. Really, really. The final tweet for this morning is Maxime Bernier is promising no retreat from his party's hardline stances, and a crowd of about 40 supporters loved every minute of his speech on Friday morning at the Medicine Hat Golf and Country Club. Yeah, I think people who speak the truth get people who are looking to hear the truth. And when they hear that truth spoken, they're enthusiastic to support those people. So I'm happy to be standing with Mr. Bernier, and man, this is going to be an interesting ride. This is going to be a tough election. This is going to be, well, they're not going to play fair. And that much is clear. So thanks for watching, everybody. Check out the peoplespartyofcanada.ca and have a wonderful, wonderful